Hi there. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to our Cybersecurity and Mobile Workforce webinar. Really glad to see so many attendees at 8 o'clock in the morning. I hope you all have your coffee. And I look forward to sharing some important information around cybersecurity. My name is Meg Ross. I work for First Call Computer Solutions. I'm a business development executive here. And for those of you that don't know First Call, we are a full resource technology company. We're located in Missoula in the great state of Montana. I know a lot of the attendees today are actually clients of ours, so welcome. And then there's some new faces as well, and I appreciate you showing up, and we'll get some engagement going here as we go through. First Call has been around for 23 years in the state of Montana. We have two amazingly intelligent leaders, Matt Manley and Connor Smith, who have watched the technology world ebb and flow over the years. And with it, their company has had to ebb and flow as well. We have a high focus on IT managed services, advanced security services for cybersecurity. Excuse me. We also do voice over IP phone systems, websites, and any kind of network design or project work. So that's a little bit about who we are. To give everybody a background on how this webinar came to be, initially we were going to be a part of the Missoula Chamber of Commerce Coffee and Conversation event. And as everyone on this call knows, the economy has been deeply impacted by coronavirus. And so all in-person meetings have been canceled, rightly so. And when we first came up with the concept of cybersecurity for that coffee and conversation, and it got canceled, we realized that, this information is really important. And we're going to find a way to get this information to our community, even if we can't have this in-person meeting. So, I appreciate you showing up. We did sprinkle in a little bit of information about mobile workforce as well. And the reason being, of course, is that a lot of the people that are still working and the businesses that are still running have had to send their employees home to work. And there are some specific cybersecurity threats attached to working from home. So we want to talk about that a little bit more. If by the end of this webinar, you have more questions around specifically mobile workforce, know two things. One is that you can reach out to me at any time. I'm happy to make recommendations and offer some advice. And two is that we will also follow this webinar with another one on a broader scale about mobile workforce. All right. So a little bit about me and why I'm working for First Call itself is I have a background as an entrepreneur. I've opened several businesses throughout my life. I've lived throughout the country, and I've sold those businesses. I've had some success. I've had some failures. I really appreciate the need for understanding technology. And I believe I do a good job of bridging the gap between the business owner and the technology partner. So that's where I play a role with First Call itself. We have over 40 technicians. We have clients throughout the state of Montana, and we're continuing to grow. And hopefully this webinar will leave everyone with some solid information, education, maybe some next steps that you can achieve personally, as well as opportunity to reach out and have a mobile partner if you wanted to. So today, as we talked about, cybersecurity is the main focus. And on the call today, I have one of our partners, Amelia Paro, who is a multi-award-winning speaker. She is a cybersecurity advisor. She's a sales expert. She works for ID Agent, which is one of First Call's partners that we utilize as a tool. Everybody needs to have partners in their lines of work. And we really, really appreciate our relationship with ID Partner. And I'm just going to let Amelia introduce herself just a little bit here. Amelia?
Hello, Missoula County Chamber of Commerce. My name's Amelia Paro, and I'm really excited to be here and support our partner on this webinar. My history, I came from an MSP, so and prior to that, I've been in technology pretty much longer than I'd like to admit. So I've got a lot of industry knowledge, but my specialty is really in strategies and solutions for protecting businesses and the individuals within those businesses. So I'm really excited to be here today, and this is going to be a great conversation. So
thank you so much again for joining us, Amelia. So one last shout out here before we get going. In the background, we have Katie Buckley, who's the marketing director for First Call. She's been responsible for getting this information out there, getting people on board and invited. She is running the webinar for us. Thank you so much, Katie. You'll hear her voice down at the end when we're doing questions and answers. Keep in mind that questions and answers can be sent into the chat at any time. We will get to those, as many as we can, in the question and answer section. And anything that we don't get answered, I will reach out personally and make sure that we address, okay? So without further ado, let's get things rolling here. All right, I felt like it was important to take a perspective about how cybersecurity actually affects Montana businesses specifically. I think it's fair to say that Montana is a unique state. We have less than 1 million people throughout a very large area. And oftentimes we can feel personally like we live in a little bit of a bubble from the rest of the world. So a couple of things to know about that. One, I think it's really obvious at this point with the recent changes that we don't live in a bubble, that things can touch us, although they might be slower at times. Once you plug a device into the network, you are attached to the rest of the globe. So there are legal implications, obviously, in Montana that do dictate that companies report breaches to the Department of Justice, okay? So that's something that you need to keep in mind in terms of what happens if you were to get physically breached. Additionally, there are other business implications, okay? So revenue loss is one that everybody recognizes. You don't want to lose revenue. Well, 29% of businesses that get breached end up having revenue loss. And this is just direct revenue loss, where people aren't shopping there as much, or they have to pay ransomware, etc. There's also online vandalism. Some hackers fancy themselves as pranksters, excuse me. In these cases, a breach might only lead to a few words changed in a website, maybe a couple of letters, even in your contact information or your phone number. But let's get back to revenue loss when it comes to your online vandalism. Well, if you can't see the changes that have happened to your website because they're so minimal, or because you're not auditing it often enough, people might be searching for you, they can't find you, or they can't contact you, and they're going elsewhere. So that adds on to that revenue loss, right? Another implication, of course, is damage to brand reputation. There's a long-term reputation that's at stake when you have breaches. Your personal emails, you don't want leaked out into the world, right? Well, neither do your clients. And so when they find out, and they have to, by the way, because it's something that you have to let them know once there's been a breach, that security measures weren't taken to protect their information, it's going to put a sour taste in their mouth. You have to keep in mind that's a long-term issue that you'll have to face. Loss of intellectual property is another one. Obviously, manufacturers, Department of Defense manufacturers, construction companies are going to face this a little bit more than other businesses, but some hackers want to go in and target designs and strategies and blueprints. And at the end of the day, losing intellectual property can impact the competitiveness of your business. So it's just something to keep in mind there. And then finally, there's a ton of hidden costs implicated, with cybersecurity challenges. Those hidden costs can be legal fees. They might be PR fees when you're trying to come back from damage to your brand reputation. The insurance fees may go up. So there's a lot of different aspects that are affected, lots of different implications to your business. So those are the reasons why it's important for you to understand and protect yourself against these cybersecurity threats, right? So some statistics here, and I think it's really important to say that I don't want anyone to take away the idea that we're trying to scare you through all of this talk about statistics and threats. Our job, again, is to bring you the information as it is. We're not making this stuff up, and understanding what you're at risk for is the best way that you can protect yourself initially, so that you can start taking steps to do other things. So obviously, here's some statistics. 412,000 people were affected by a breach in the state of Montana. Those are just individuals, right? And that could be from Facebook, it could be from LinkedIn, etc. But long story short is that's half the population of the state of Montana.
Wow, that's significant.
It's pretty impactful. We, again, might be small in terms of the people in our state, but we're being affected and touched by this every day. There were 314 cyber attacks to different organizations just in the state of Montana that impacted them. Now, let's keep in mind something. That's who reported them. So, you got to guess that there's more than that have actually happened, but those are the significant impacted Montana businesses in 2019. The last statistic that I think is really impactful is that, from the time that you actually realize that there's been a data breach to the time that it's completely resolved, the average is 82 days. So think about that. That is a quarter of a year. And, especially in the climate that we're having right now, can you really afford to lose a quarter of your year, even after all the other things that we're going through right now? It's frightening. So again, this isn't to try and scare you as much as it is just to bring awareness and say that this is really happening. And so let's talk about ways to prevent it. All right, so the focus here is that smaller businesses are targeted, more often so than you might think. And there's a lot of different reasons behind that. At the end of the day, smaller businesses don't have the budgets that they need to. They certainly can't recover quickly then. And at that point, they're just closing their doors.
Criminals are going after the low-hanging fruit, right? And if you think about all of our businesses, right? We're not Marriott, we're not Target. Granted, those breaches were PR nightmares for those companies, but they had the financial resources to keep their doors open. They also have the security protocols in place. But the rest of us, we're not Target, and we're not Marriott, and I'm pretty sure you can still get a room. Well, you'll still be able to get a room at Marriott, even though it might not be a good idea right now. But you know what I mean? So criminals, they want, our businesses, small businesses are, they're just salivating. We're all just like cherries to be picked.
That's absolutely right. So again, going back to the bubble, you're no longer in a bubble. In fact, you're more susceptible to some of these issues than some of even the larger companies. $900,000 is the average cost of a cybersecurity attack.
A lot of money.
It's a huge amount of money.
It's a lot of money.
I mean, I know that I don't have that kind of money lying around.
I wish I did, but no.
Right. So appreciate that, Amelia. That's absolutely right. So the next question, of course, becomes, why are these attacks so successful? And I know that Amelia is going to talk a little bit more about cybersecurity as a business, but let's just take a few minutes to take a look at this slide. I think it's really important to understand that, I mean, again, it only takes 4 minutes to get into your network, but it could take you 99 days or more to even know that somebody's been infiltrating your network. Now tack on another 82 days to that. I mean, these are impactful statistics for sure.
Right. And if you think about somebody on your network for 6-8 months, the information that they're gathering, the damage that can be done to anybody's business, to have, a criminal sitting on your network gathering all kinds of financial, personal data for almost 3/4 of a year.
Right.
It gives me goosebumps thinking about it.
Yeah. And it's really difficult for somebody to walk in at that point and say, oh yeah, I can figure out everything that they took, or all the information that they know now. That's, again, reactive behavior. To have to call somebody after you figure something out like that out versus being prepared ahead of time.
Yeah. At that point, you almost need a digital forensic science, and that's right. Not cheap.
No, it's not. All right. Well, let's talk about cybersecurity, cybercrime, and it being a business. And I'm going to let you take over here, Amelia, since you really are the expert.
Yeah. So one of the things that I have a lot of knowledge about is, unfortunately, the dark web, right? So the dark web, it's not a thing of science fiction. It's actually real. And really the most important point about it, and I'll talk about what the dark web is more a little bit later, but really what's important is that it's a real thing, and it's organized crime. It's a place where all organized crime lives, and it's ran like a very well organized business. It's not just some 14-year-old Ukrainian kid in his basement hacking for fun anymore. It's literally a very well-run business. I mean, they have hiring programs, they have HR departments, they have it's real and it's legitimate, and it's a very profitable business. So it's not going away anytime soon. I just pulled some interesting stats from our dark web analysts about some of the things that goes on in the dark web, and of the more than 2,723 odd live dark web sites, right? Like these online dark web marketplaces. Over half of them, host illicit material that could potentially harm your business. And I'm not talking about drugs or guns or the other evil stuff that lives out there, which I don't even want to get into. But just speaking as it relates to how businesses can be impacted, you can buy credit card numbers, stolen subscription credentials, hacked Netflix accounts, and software that helps you break into other people's computer. They have ransomware as a service offerings that give you your own white labeled dashboard where all the information on how much Bitcoin you've made, how many files you have encrypted. It's all in this very nice laid out. And anybody can go, if you know how to get there. Any criminal can go and get this stuff, and it's the login credentials for you know, a $50,000 Bank of America business account you can buy for $500, right? Or, you know, get $3,000 in counterfeit $20 bills for $600. I mean, you know, these dark web commerce sites have the same features as any e-retail operation, and it's, you know, businesses are the target. Our information is very lucrative, and it's, you know, it's highly valued.
Yeah, I completely agree.
Yeah, so, you know, the next thing I want to talk about is kind of how cybercrime is on the rise. So yeah, so this is you know, these are stats that are scary on their own, right? Just kind of to illustrate the fact that it's not going away. It's, you know, it's only going to get worse, quite honestly, and especially now with kind of the new normal. For however long this is going to be the new normal, things are, you know, criminals really are taking advantage of the, you know, the concern that everyone has about what's going on, right? So rightly so, everyone's concerned about the coronavirus and the spread and what they can do and what the status is, and that thirst, that hunger for information about the world around us, because we're all so isolated, those emotions take over where logic would, and criminals are capitalizing on that, and so, you know, they're using our fear to take advantage of us. Fear makes us vulnerable because we stop, you know, thinking, and we just start clicking on anything that has to do with coronavirus or, you know, anything else, just because we're hungry for that information. So, you know, now more than ever, it's really important to, you know, just be smart and pause and make sure that, you know, the information that you are receiving, that you're accepting, that you're clicking on is actually legitimate, right? You know, that's probably the best thing that you can do right now is just, you know, educate yourself so that you're not a victim.
Yeah, take a little bit more time to think through things before you're clicking away. And you know, the NSA and one of the things that we say to our clients regarding cybercrime is that it's not if something is going to happen.
When?
It is when something is going to happen. So, and to what extreme, right? So one way or the other, you need to be prepared for something happening.
Yeah. Now, back, I mentioned the dark web earlier. So everybody wants to know, I get asked all the time, well, have you actually been on the dark web? Have you seen the dark web? You know, what does it look like? Well, it's not like I can just, you know, take an Uber to the dark web. It's and I personally have never been on it, nor do I want to. But I've, you know, I work with many white hat hacker you know, government cyber terrorist analysts that are on the dark web all the time, and they share images with me. But just, you know, for your knowledge of as to what it is, there's the part of the web that we see, that we interact with every day, is called the surface web, and it's really only about 10% of what the actual World Wide Web is. And this is a great image. You know, so the search sites, Google, Bing, Yahoo, take your pick. Those are search engines that search on indexed and cookied IP address, right? So anything that's not indexed or cookied, which is about 90% of the rest of the World Wide Web, that makes up both the deep web and the dark web. So the deep web is, a lot of it is the unindexed, right? So it's medical journals, it's research journals. It's not necessarily evil stuff, or criminal, I should say. But the dark web is where it's the completely anonymous. You have to know the IP address. that is not like a normal, businessname.com, right? So it's a randomized, completely unintelligible series of letters and numbers and symbols, all strung together, .onion, right? So you literally have to know how to get there to get there. But once you do, it's completely
anonymous. You can't just Google it, huh?
No, you can't just Google it. You can't just Google it. But so it's there and it's real, right? So if you look at this image, this is a great way to visualize it. It's an iceberg, right? So what we deal with every day is the tip of the iceberg. The rest of it, the biggest part, is what's going to sink the Titanic if we let it.
Right.
Yeah. So
how does the data get onto the dark web?
Yeah, that's a great question. So there's several different ways. So phishing is a very common way, and what that is it's where you as an individual get sent an email from someone that you recognize, someone that you know, or a business that you know, but it's not. It's been faked, right? So they call it a confidence scam. Malvertising is just really it's placing a malicious payload on a legitimate website, hiding it in maybe like an ad. Watering holes are those really malicious, they're called bad websites, the unsecure websites. And those, oftentimes, those are recreated websites that are made to look like homework help sites or kind of religious sites. It's unfortunate, but criminals play on our vulnerabilities, our sensitivities, right? So kids, religion, all that stuff, a lot of times they're bad websites, and just going on them is going to give you a virus. And then web attacks. So there's something called a brute force attack, and what that is criminals are like just constantly hitting a website, trying to find any vulnerabilities, right? Any way that they can get in to access your network through your website. So all of these things, it sounds really scary, but really at the end of the day, it's we are our own worst enemy, and humans kind of are the weakest link, and the best way to combat all of this is just education and being smarter and sharing this information and knowing what to look for, right? And there's lots of ways that we as the good guys can share information to educate the rest of us on what to look for and how to spot the bad guys, right?
Yeah. I mean, at first call, we like to refer to this as human behavior, right?
Yeah.
Behaviors.
We're all, yeah.
Yeah, you can't control.
No.
So training that is super important. I agree.
Yeah, and having a partner that, because look, we're not everybody's technical. Believe it or not, I'm not a technical person. The tech guys at my company, they start talking tech, and I, go shopping in my head. But so having a partner that knows what to look for and knows how to advise the rest of us that aren't technical on how the many layers of security that's needed. We all have to partner in this, because we all we don't know what we don't know, so that's why we need people who do know.
That's right. Exactly.
Yeah. All right, so I've talked about what the dark web is, how our data gets on the dark web. Well, then what do they do with it? Well, criminals they're looking for, most of them are looking to get paid, just like the rest of us, right? So it's all they have very well established processes based on successful methods, like their A/B testing, because like I mentioned, it's like a well-run business.
Right.
So when our data gets compromised and it's out on the dark web, they use it to send phishing emails to then further, compromise your business or steal your identity, steal your credentials, your bank account number, to then, commit either a personal fraud or corporate fraud, felonious acts to get money. I'm sure, well, many of you may have be familiar with the Nigerian prince scam. I don't know if anybody's seen, yes, where, there's the Nigerian prince somewhere that wants to send you $1 million because you're his long lost relative or whatever. He just needs you to give him your bank account number for a direct deposit. They're a lot more sophisticated than that, but that's a perfect example of, a phishing email. They're looking to get some sort of information out of you. Once they do, they'll send you emails that have an infected attachment that they're looking to get you to download, and then it will infect your entire system, lock up your emails. Then comes the ransomware, right? Well, we'll unlock your files, but only after you pay us. And again, we're dealing with criminals, so there's maybe a 60 or a 40-60 chance that you'll actually get it back, or they'll continue to hold it for more money, or they'll sell it on the dark web. And there's a million different horrible scenarios. But at the end of the day, it's all about they're looking to make money and commit fraud, and we are the victims.
Right. And another great example of a phishing email that I think everyone's probably seen, because I know that it's a more recent one, is the email that you get from your boss who asks you to go and buy a gift card or a bunch of gift cards. But you can buy that for your own money.
Not from your boss.
Reimburse you. Because it looks just like the email account that you'd get from your boss. And I'll go one step further. Is in the city of Missoula alone, over the last couple of years, there have been very targeted challenges like that have happened where the CFO or the bookkeeper did actually send upwards of $150,000 to an account that was a non-existing account, and they were out that money. So
oh, absolutely, it's gone. It's unfortunate.
Let's take a look at Missoula Chamber here. So from this perspective, one of the things that we did at First Call is with our partner ID Agent, we ran some of the domain names that are out there that are part of Missoula Chamber of Commerce, right? So everybody has their own domain name. And with those domain names, we can find how many compromised reports are available on the dark web. So this is a big number. 17,000 compromised emails exist within 400 of the Missoula Chamber small businesses alone. And to put this in perspective, we did initially look at every different Missoula Chamber member, but there are some that are franchises that are really large companies that exist throughout the country. So we eliminated all of those bigger multi-location businesses so that you could have a better idea of how many compromised emails are really out on the dark web just among the Missoula Chamber of Commerce.
And to frame this a little bit, the tool that the ID Agent, the dark web monitoring tool that you have, Meg, is it goes out on the dark web. It's a combination of both technology, AI, and human eyeballs, and all that information is publicly available information out on the dark web. Again, if you have to know how to get there. But the tool, the monitoring tool, watches for those compromised emails associated with the domain name, right? So they can identify them. So this is a huge number, and what that means is there's the businesses within the chamber there's some significant risk, and doesn't mean that it's, you guys have been breached. It just means that, there's been some risks, and it's time to maybe look at some security practices and maybe start educating yourselves, your employees about some smart cyber security practices.
Yep. And this information is really helpful to know too. Again, we'll talk about this at the end, but we're happy to share information like this with anybody in the Missoula Chamber about their business. But a simple thing to do just to take action right away is to change passwords on those compromised accounts. So that might be one step, but the next step really is to prevent this from happening in the future. So again, we'll talk about that more. But for right now, let's talk about some of the cybersecurity risks that, obviously we've talked about a lot of different risks right now, but with what's happening throughout our country and the globe, there's an actual response by COVID-19 that is being created within the cybersecurity world, right? Amelia was talking earlier about the idea that people's fear over the virus creates this vulnerability, right? It doesn't matter if it's a pandemic or if it's a flood, if it's any other natural disaster that's happening, hackers are going to try and capitalize on it.
And even the good stuff too. It doesn't have to be bad stuff. Like, holidays are a great time for criminals to take advantage, right? They'll take any advantage they can. Yep,
100%. And so it's just important to know that they're looking for excuses. In addition to that, there are new threats, new types of phishing, new types of text message, malware, RDP exploits. They're appearing every single day. So, these guys that are creating these cybersecurity risks have nothing to do but this, right? That is their job. So, they're trying to find any way that they can to feed off of the fear that's happening right now around the world. And then, again, businesses maybe weren't really ready necessarily to move to a whole complete mobile workforce, but they were forced to. So that does create some cybersecurity risks as well. Forgetfulness when it comes to security can be especially true for those people that are working at home. You might get a little bit lax. Perhaps you don't have a VPN that you're working out of, so you're working on a home network, sharing the computer for personal and business. The list goes on and on. But there are some things that need to be put in place that right now you might not have as a mobile workforce.
Right. Now more than ever, it's really important to kind of future-proof your business, right? And make sure that there aren't any holes, any gaps, any vulnerabilities that criminals can take advantage of, because they're looking for it right now. And
absolutely. So, we've talked about a lot of doom and gloom, right? And sorry to do this to you at 8 in the morning. But again, our goal at First Call and with our partnerships is to bring awareness, right? So once you have the awareness, you can start taking steps to secure yourself. So we've created a little 15-step list here that talks about layers of security, right? IT isn't as simple as just, hey, I put one thing in and I'm good. You need to think about IT as layers of security.
What? You mean there's no one magic pill?
No, one magic pill. And I would go as far as like going to the last item here, having a trusted IT partner. Well, just having a trusted IT partner isn't enough, right? That's one layer, and it's a very important layer. It could be that you have a team of people like First Call that's your trusted IT partner. It could be that you have a relationship with somebody else that is just better at IT than you. Um, every business has its own needs, and there's not a right or wrong way of doing things, but you do need to know what you don't know and find the people that can support you with those things that you don't know. In addition to that, so your IT partner can only do so much. There are tools that have to be in place. And then again, there's behavior. We can't change your behavior.
Yeah, you know, we can try.
We can help. We can do some security awareness training, right? Those are things that do bring test the end users about what they're clicking on, and gives them some education along the way. I'm going to bounce around here a little bit, and Amelia, you can jump in whenever you'd like. But one of the things that we've seen a huge increase in over the last couple of weeks, and I'm really happy to hear it, is what we call VPNs. So ultimately, what a VPN is doing is giving you a secure way to access your business network from home, right? So that you're not just out on the open internet at your house. So that's a really important one. It's a pretty easy solution as well. So, you know, it's something to certainly consider if you don't have that currently and you've had a bunch of people start working from home. I think it's a really important one to bring attention to.
Yeah, I mean, you gotta imagine that a lot of internal IT guys are probably under a lot of pressure and stress right now. There's a lot of things that they've had to do almost overnight.
Correct.
And, you know, having us, you know, a partner, someone that can support them will, you know, probably keep them from going gray, completely gray overnight if they haven't already.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You know, and then, you know, another thing that the people don't think about is you have to be patching your software, okay? This is a really important thing to be doing. Whether you're working from home or working from the office, it is absolutely necessary. And patching means updating your programs, your operating systems. When, you know, think about it this way, is that when the maker, let's use Microsoft, for instance, finds that there's some kind of vulnerability in their software, they roll out an update to cover that software or to cover that vulnerability. And if you don't stay up to date with that software, you're going to open yourself up to more breaches, right?
Wait, you mean they don't automatically do the updates for us?
They don't. They don't.
Who's going to keep track of that? That's a lot.
Right. And you know, here's the thing: is that updates can be simple in some cases, but when you do have a trusted IT partner, one of the things that they can really help you with through this process is, one, helping you stay up to date just automatically. But two, they know based on your behavior and your business what really needs to be updated and what doesn't. So I'll give you a good example. You don't need a bunch of versions of Solitaire on your computer necessarily, right?
Sure you do.
We don't need to keep updating that. You know, and so I put client engagement next. And, you know, I felt like this was really important right now in the mobile workplace. So this is just advice to all the businesses that are out there having challenges with this transition. Keep in mind that your clients need to know what's going on with you, right? Just like we're sharing what's going on with us, we want to try and do what we can to help. So do your clients. Talk to them, you know, engage with them on social media, let them know where you're working and what you're doing to secure their information and your business.
Hey, Meg, what if I'm a business and I don't know how to use an online virtual communication tool like this? Is that something that you might be able to help me out with as a business?
Yeah,
setting something up like this?
Absolutely. There are so many tools out there, and they can be really hard to decipher for what works best for you and your business. But We do have really great relationships with and tools that are available for specifically for mobile meetings, for mobile communications, staying in touch with your team and in a secure way. So 100%, we have the ability to make some recommendations that fit your business and fit your user types, and we can help with some training around that too.
Awesome.
Anything else on here that you feel like is really important to point out yourself, Amelia?
You touched a lot on the high points, and really what's most important is that multi-layered approach, right? So the more layers of security a business has, the less gaps, the less vulnerabilities, the less chances that a criminal can sneak in through a crack, right? I mean, we all have enough to worry about right now. The last thing that we need is to have to worry about, my business getting hacked, right? Or my employee accidentally clicking on an attachment that locks up our entire system. I know I really couldn't deal with that right now.
Right. And just one last note on this is that, again, this is a tool, right? We want to share information that we have to help you protect yourself. You may not need everything.
To provide an assessment to the chamber members, just to kind of see where they're at as far as their security and what they might need, if anything.
Exactly. So, look at this as these are a bunch of suggestions for how you can best protect yourself. We are more than happy. I'm going to move on to this next slide to help make some recommendations. And again, time with us to make these recommendations with myself is always free to anybody in the chamber. Again, we want to get you set up. So, when it comes to the dark web ID stuff, let's talk about that. Amelia, would you mind just kind of talking through that tool specifically?
Absolutely. So the dark web ID, it's a 24/7 monitoring tool. Goes out on the dark web, it checks for any compromises associated with a business's email address, right? And it alerts, it sends an alert so that you can address it immediately. Change, Mary in HR, she needs to change her password. Her email's been compromised. And it gives you the ability to have like an early breach indicator system. Well, one of the things that First Call can do for the attendees on this call is provide a report that will give you guys the information. Remember earlier she talked about the number of compromises. Well, she can provide that report to you that will give you an idea of the emails that have been compromised, and more information so that you can take that information and working with First Call, address it, remediate it and reduce the risk to your business. So that's what the dark web compromise report is, and really it's it's almost a necessary thing right now, because the more holes in the network, the easier it is for criminals to get in. So
right, absolutely. Yeah, and again, I'm happy to run those reports for anybody within our community, anybody that reaches out. I'll certainly reach out to the attendees as well. I'm going to move on to this next slide, which is just questions and answers. I know I don't see a bunch of questions in the queue right now, and it's possible that everybody's gotten what they need, which is fine. I'm going to check in with Katie really quick and see if there's anything that I'm missing. Katie, is there any?
Yeah, just a couple follow-up questions that I want to make sure, even if anybody, if we want to submit some questions now, but how do we know if our credentials have been compromised? The list that you provided with the chamber information, how do they know if their credentials are on there? Is that a part of the
Yeah. So what we did a scan of all the domains within the Missoula Chamber. That number doesn't mean that their organization necessarily is on that, has compromised reports, right? But we can run individual reports for anyone that asks us to. Of course, free of charge, and share that information with you.
Yeah, and that is confidential information, so that is something that Meg, you would only be able to share with that business, in person, because it is confidential. So those of you on the call, it's not something that she will be making public or sharing with anyone else. It is completely, all that information is housed within the monitoring tool, and it is not public at all. Not. No.
Right. What else, Katie?
Let's see. Another one would be, you had mentioned a lot of people moving to the remote working, obviously working from home, you ladies are. How necessary is a VPN, and how easy is it to get it set up? Is it something that you absolutely should have, or?
Yeah, I highly recommend a VPN when you have multiple employees working at different locations outside of a secure network, right? So ideal situation is that you have a firewall at your business, and some may potentially have VPN access in it, and it's a setting. Other times it's something that needs to be installed, relatively easily done. Just need to make a phone call and get that set up. And once that is set up, you have to access the software on each of the computers it's going to be VPNing in. So long story short, it's relatively painless. Doesn't cost a tremendous amount of money, but the idea that not having one, you can get away with that for too long, is just not, it's not a good business decision.
And I guess the last one, anybody else wants to submit one, the last one would be on the 15, the checklist that you provided, there was one about password manager, and that is something that's more popular. Is there one that you would recommend as a base?
Yeah, absolutely. What I won't do is make a recommendation blankly, just to the whole group, because at the end of the day, everybody's business has different needs. So there's some that work for, your personal accounts that are inexpensive or free, that have some value. And then there's some that you want to explore for your business accounts, depending on how you want to share the information. So it's very specific to the type of business, but again, happy to make those specific recommendations. Password managers are a level of security that's important to understand. You don't want to be writing down your passwords, and you want to be careful about who you share them with. So yes, if anyone has interest in learning more about what password managers we like to use and recommend, more than happy to have that conversation.
Right, and I just want to, add quickly, those of you like I used to that are using the same password or a very similar variation of that same password across the board, that is probably the worst thing that you can do. And I'm guilty of it too. Thankfully not anymore, but I was probably one of the worst. I used I love my dog 1 through 4 on my I know. I know. I share that story because people learn from my mistakes, right? And password managers are probably the easiest way to have long, complex passwords and not have to remember them all.
Yeah, agreed. And they really are easy to use once you get them set up. I mean, it doesn't take that long. I think that the fear around password managers sometimes is, I got to go through all these accounts. Well, it's done once and then it's done. and the things that you do to protect yourself now are going to make a difference in the future.
Absolutely.
So I appreciate all of that. We're just to kind of close out here. I want to thank everyone again for attending. Thank you, Amelia, for participating.
Yep, my pleasure.
Your knowledge is invaluable. We are so proud to have you as a partner at First Call. You know, I will be happy to reach out to attendees. I will remind everyone that has participated today that you will be getting a follow-up survey. And in that, it would be valuable to me more than anything else. If you're really honest, so we want to know, is this information impactful? Is there something else that we're missing that you need to know about? Tell us. You know, do you hate our presenting? Tell us that too. We want
not like my hair. Oh no, I'm kidding.
Like, that's fine. You know, at the end of the day, the goal with these webinars is going to be to service the community, and we can't do that if you don't let us know what you need. And we want to be here to support Missoula and Montana through this time. So please reach out. We're here for you, and I hope everyone stays healthy and strong. Please look out for the webinar on mobile workforce, and you know we will go from there. I really appreciate everybody's time today, and have a great rest of your afternoon.
Yep, we're all in this together. So
Right.
Take care, everyone. Stay healthy and safe.
Thank you.
Bye.